Welcome everybody to CoralVue live feed from, well, I am actually in Chicago, and there is Alex, and he's joining me here from directly from northern Germany, right, Alex?
That's right. Hello, good to see you.
Good to see everybody. Thank you for joining us here. So this time around, we wanted to do something a little different, and we thought, you know, what a great way to have Alex invite us. And I did this kind of like, Alex, I'm inviting myself, I don't know how many other people into your home, into your kitchen, and just you know, a night of, well, in Germany, but it would be just a little time spent in the kitchen. You're gonna cook something for us, and then we're just gonna have a candid conversation about Abyzz and the life in Abyzz and how it started, and also allow customers to ask questions.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You didn't tell me that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right.
So before we start, welcome. This is CoralVue TV. You're actually, all of you are used to seeing us do kind of scripted videos with instructional videos or things that, you know, a little more, I want to say professional, but a little more work into it, more work put into it. But because of social distancing and the pandemic that we're all having right now, having to deal with, well, you know, we've had to scramble and come up with ways to stay connected. And we figured this is a great way to give somebody a break, give some of you a break in terms of what, you know, the routine of the day, something a little different, have a little fun with Alex cooking. If you like the video, please like us. If you're on Facebook, like the channel. If you're on YouTube, please like the channel, and then hit the little bell as well. That will tell you, and we'll send notifications next time we have a Facebook or YouTube live. It helps the channel, and it helps us kind of keep going. The more people we have, the easier it is to tell our bosses that this is working.
So all you mean we can continue to drink on the company expense?
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's get started here. And
yeah,
Abyzz, before we get started here, I see we are in your kitchen.
Yes, that's true.
This is in your kitchen.
This is our kitchen at home, yeah, not the work kitchen. So this is actually where we live. My family's out of the house right now, but they'll be coming back shortly, I hope. And then, yeah. So, well, you see outside, it's shortly after 6 p.m. now, and the sun is still up. So weather has been beautiful the last days, which is one thing to compensate for all the other stuff that's bothering us right now. Yes, so far it's all good. And I prepared everything, and I think we're good to go. Except that always before you start cooking, you're supposed to put something into the chef, and this is what we're gonna start with, right?
Absolutely, that we're gonna start with. So in the meantime, okay,
I'm just gonna go grab some ice. And then I'll have a little gin and tonic.
Wait a minute.
Who's that?
I guess the Swedish chef wants to know if you can give him a recipe for German meatloaf. I hear that your meatloaf is really good.
I think that's yeah. Well, I never actually, I did do a meatloaf, but it's not like that common in Germany at all. Like, no. Well, rather the bratwurst.
I hear the public aquariums and a couple of your friends are they look forward to the German meatloaf, which really doesn't exist, I think.
I think that must be Joe then.
Yeah, a little birdie told us that you know, we should that somebody was interested on the meatloaf part of it.
Okay, well,
cool.
So
all right, so
how to fuel the chef. So as most of you know, I love gin, and I have to give a little shout out to my friend Jonathan in Norwich, because he is literally producing the best gin in the world. You can't buy it in the States. But this, and I've already brought it to some friends, smuggling that in. So this is this is really good. Norfolk Gin, I can highly recommend that. Whenever you get the chance, try it.
Okay.
No fancy stuff, just ice and a good tonic. Never from the tap or from the gun, because that doesn't have enough gas in it and it tastes like chlorine. So, well then, for me, it's already afternoon, so I'm officially allowed to drink past 6.
Absolutely,
so,
the chef can always drink.
That's right. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. I have to get first. I sent a text message to my boss first because it is 11 o'clock in the morning here, so I'm gonna get the text message first to get the beer okay. Once I get the okay, then I'll cheer with you.
Well, I hope your boss has a good day. And
Dave,
good.
Dave, if you're watching, can you comment on Facebook and let me know if I'm okay to have a beer? You know,
I really want a beer.
I really want a beer. You know, it's 11, but it's okay. I still want a beer.
Cool. So, yeah, I think we should start a little bit. So, I don't know whether everyone knows what we're gonna do.
Yes, we are. And actually, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna ask my director right now to show a picture of the ingredients that we're gonna be using.
All right.
And what are you making?
So we're making a venison, like a venison loin chop, which is in our case is from the roe deer. That's the local deer that we have here in the northern part of Germany. It's the smallest deer kind that we have, although it's the most tasty one in my opinion. So yeah, this is pretty much what it's gonna look. In a second, you're gonna see the picture there. So we're gonna roll that into a Serrano or Parma wrap, and then we're gonna put some bacon around to give it some salt. And that will be fried in the pan. You can also do that on the griddle, or if you have your barbecue already outside and ready to go, then you can. That's a perfect recipe for barbecue as well. Yeah, and with that we will have spätzle. So the correct pronunciation is spätzle.
Wait. It's called what? Spätzle?
Spätzle. Spätzle.
Oh,
Spätzle. Yeah, that was pretty good.
Spätzle.
Yeah,
there you go.
All right.
I speak German.
Well, yeah. So this
there you
is spätzle.
So everybody can see.
Yeah. So that's like a local specialty, a little bit south of us.
Everybody say hello to my wife. Oh wait.
Hello.
Well, everybody can't see it. All right.
So yeah, that's local specialty. Very good to anything basically with meat. If you have sauce, like if you're preparing some roast or whatever, and you happen to gain a sauce from that, then you can do that without any cheese. It's also a perfect recipe just on its own, actually, just with cheese over it. That's how we're gonna do it, because on our main course on the meat we won't have any sauce, and since Sandra, my wife, is vegetarian, she wants to eat something as well. So in this case we're going to use a cheese with truffle in it, so that will give a very tasty stuff. The ingredients for all of these things are pretty much basic. Of course you can use special stuff whenever it's available, but I also had, for the Brussels sprouts, which we're doing next to that, I had to go for frozen ones, because there's just no fresh Brussels sprouts now available in our little shop here. So we're gonna start, and that's what I recommended in the recipe as well, with the dough for the spätzle, because the spätzle are going to be reheated anyway, so we can do that whenever everything else is ready. So I wrote in the recipe that I have a special kind of flour. This is called spätzle flour, and the difference to a normal flour is that it's it flows a little bit like water. So it doesn't look like standard flour. If you pour that, don't know whether you can see, it should be visible. So it pours a little bit like water, like a liquid. So all these little flour particles are actually rounded. So that's why it creates a very, very nice dough. For anything pasta related, it's a very good choice. I don't know the name in English. In Germany, it's 𝘏𝘩𝘦 or double-handled, if you translate it directly, flour. So no idea. You have to check it out. But any other flour, as long as it's standard flour, will work for that. So we use.
Okay. So for everybody, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but for everybody,
No
we will post a copy of the recipe a little bit, after the video is done. Everybody will be able to download it.
Okay.
So
I heard that might be important later on.
Yes. Well, you know what? I did get a message from Dave.
Ah, great. Well,
there you go. Cheers.
To good evening.
Cheers. Cheers.
Right now. Yeah, thanks. Well, right now we would be sitting in the States actually, and so I'm pretty sad because our family vacation that we wanted to do ahead of 𝘠𝘠𝘠𝘠.
Wait a minute, Chris. What are you doing? I did get a message from Dave. Ah, great. There you go. Cheers.
Hey, what's for dinner?
What's for dinner? Well, you'll see in a second.
Chris, you got to lower the volume on YouTube. Oh, there you go. So, Chris is Zoom bombing us. What's going on here?
I got to have a drink with my buddy Alex, and and I want to see what he's cooking us.
All right.
I know it's I don't think you have started cooking, but it already smells really good.
Well, yeah, right. We're going to be there in a second.
So I am drinking a milk stout by Left Hand Brewery.
Okay.
It's fantastic. I'm a huge fan of stouts. So Left Hand Brewery, I guess that's what I'm drinking. And what are you drinking, Chris?
Stella, the finest Belgian beer.
Well, that's international funny. Then. So we have UK gin and American beer and Belgian beer. So that's good.
Okay.
So yeah, just let me do a second, and then while our little KitchenAid is working, we can. So
you're adding what? You're adding how many eggs are you adding in there?
Well, so we have 500 grams of flour, which is roughly a pound. So we're gonna need 5 whole eggs, and we're gonna need 5 egg yolks.
Okay.
Yolk.
All right.
Yolk. Is that how you say it?
Yes, egg yolks. Yes.
All right.
So in the meantime, you're doing that. Actually, we're gonna tell people that Chris and
someone has been
coffee. Is that what is that? New York coffee?
Coffee.
That's the way you're supposed to say it.
Coffee. All right. The coffee.
So anyway, what I wanted to say is that that Alex has been kind enough to actually make the company Abyzz has donated a incredible prize for somebody to win this. We're giving out an Abyzz 200 an A200 pump?
A200, yes.
A200 pump, which retails for which retails for $2,100, and that's going to be given away. Now, how and what you're going to have to do in order to win the prize, we're not going to reveal until later on the show. So you're going to have to stick around and watch in order to find out how to win that prize. But trust me, it's going to be fun. And A200 pump, that's not God, I don't think we've ever had a price like that. That's $2,100. Nope. And those pumps are amazing. I mean, they are built to last, which brings me up to kind of like a subject that I wanted to touch upon. These pumps come with a 10-year warranty, right, Alex?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Can you
So,
elaborate
yeah.
on the warranty?
Oh yeah. So I mean, when we started doing these pumps, obviously we didn't have a 10-year warranty, as we also needed to know and to find out whether you know, the pump lasts as long. But I mean, we've been designing this pump in the best way possible. I mean, that was always the idea behind the product. And so after roughly 11 years of producing them, we found out that we don't have that many defects or wear parts. So we felt very comfortable in actually giving out that 10-year warranty. That's also when the market turned a little bit to the side that people were starting to buy really, really cheap products. So it was this time when you can get like super cheap pumps everywhere. And there was like loads of companies coming up. And of course, we wanted to make a difference. And we wanted to not only to justify the price, which, you know, hasn't changed by giving that warranty, but we wanted to give the customer the sure feeling that he's not going to be let down by the product or by us as a manufacturer. So yeah, that's why we came with a 10-year warranty. And the only thing basically excluded from that warranty is the wear parts, which is only the bearings and the shaft, and both can be exchanged and repaired. And that's my personal goal, to have to actually sell a product that you can get repaired. I mean, even if you need, like, let's say a software upgrade, because we're coming out with a new feature, you might have to pay for the shipment back and forth or to your place in case of the US customers. And then they're going to get the software upgrade. But there's not that many products out there that actually do that. So our product has been designed in an industrial way. We didn't want to have this internet connectivity, which might change in the future, I'm allowed to say. But we never wanted to build something where we need to give out hot fixes like every 3 days or something because we found a bug. So the motor engine software hasn't changed almost at all in the last 10 years now, and that just works. So this is the way everything is built. It's just built to last and to just function, do what it's supposed to do. And you don't need all the, you know, fancy stuff with it. You can control that all the pumps externally if you want to, if you want to have that. And other than that, you best just forget about the pump. That's the way I would love to have every customer. So going back to the recipe, so I have the eggs and I have this. Oh, see, not allowed to talk too much, otherwise we'll be missing out the dinner. So I forgot the salt. So there's 1 teaspoon of salt in here, and the eggs, and that's basically it. So now we're going to put that into our KitchenAid.
And sorry, I'm back.
Oh, you're back. Sorry, I was
back.
like wondering where you went.
You know what? It's social distancing and the internet connection. But at least Zoom is fantastic about keeping the connections going between other people while even the host goes down. So
awesome.
If you see me going, I've noticed that my internet's been glitchy a couple this morning. But
I was just talking to Chris then.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I went to get another beer.
Yeah.
That's always a good idea. So back to the recipe. I mean, I just explained all the warranty things. So
keep going.
In case you missed that, just watch the stream again later on. So I put all the dough, the eggs, the flour, the eggs, and the salt into my Buy American KitchenAid.
Nothing but the best.
Yeah. Well, actually, it is. I love that thing. So, and now we just need some water. So don't be worried that we're using tap water without any filtration, but in Germany, that's actually absolutely okay to do that.
So, Alex, in the meantime, I had a question for you in terms of the hobby. in
Yeah.
the differences between the hobby in Europe and the differences in the US. And I know that in Europe, freshwater is huge, isn't it?
It is. It is.
It is. So what are your thoughts in freshwater and saltwater, and what do you think of what we can learn from each hobby and from Europe, the US, and here, because most of our audience is in the US?
Well, I mean, the freshwater, I would say in the last, let's say 5 to 10 years, has really come back up again due to all this, the whole aquascaping scene, which is incredible. Like this has created a whole new hobby and for us as manufacturers market. So people suddenly want to create, like something like pictures, like artwork with an aquarium. So they are, and what we found out, and what I've heard from my friends and dealers, that the people are very, very picky about what they want to buy. So they don't want to buy, plant X. They want to buy like a very, very specific plant that grows in a very specific area and a very specific type. And that's something that when I had a freshwater tank back in the days, I had no clue. And most people that I know, except maybe for the dealers and some super enthusiastic hobbyists, had an idea on really what animals would fit together. And if you talk to people like 𝘘𝘶𝘬𝗭𝗆, for example, one of the super freshwater guys, knows, I would say he knows every fish that's out there. So these people, they know exactly where to put what. And so that's, I think, something that we can learn, which I'm not following that rule anyway, as well. So to actually put species in tanks that belong together in nature as well. And that's, I think, a big thing for both hobbies, for both branches of this hobby, that where we could maybe as marine hobbyists can learn something, that you don't necessarily put fish next to each other that would never see themselves in nature, as from what I've heard, changes the behavior in an aquarium completely. So I mean, I still have a lot of species from everywhere and from my old tanks, and you collect this and you collect that, and you have corals from here and fish from there. So that's all mixed up. And we are just trying to, have the most fancy colors, and then we need something red. So it doesn't really matter where it comes from or whether it's supposed to be next to the other coral, but it's supposed to be red in our mindset. So I think that would be something that I find quite interesting, to go into that biotope aquarium area to just have recreate a little piece of nature that you could actually find in nature somewhere, like go to the Great Barrier Reef, go to the Red Sea, and just have those species. I think that would be a good way to do it. But I also know that it's quite complicated. If you go into the escaper scene, the aquarium is with some hobbyists, it's rebuilt or rescaped once a year, twice a year, maybe more often, just to create something, take pictures, show off on the forums, and then take it back down. So that's one kind of a hobby, but that's not the what I meant by biotope aquariums. So that might be something where we could look into. Other than that, the freshwater people definitely learned something about technology. So that has evolved as well. So now all the high quality light manufacturers, for example, they started to have the whole spectrum of lights, not only light, but lights that you could choose from for your tank. So I think that's a big difference. That's a big difference there.
So I guess the dough is ready.
Yeah, that's the dough now.
Okay, can we see how it looks? Can we see how it looks so we can see the consistency?
Yes. So this is what it's supposed to look like. It could be a bit thicker, but
Okay.
then it just affects basically the way the Spätzle will look. So there's short Spätzle and long Spätzle, but this
Mm-hmm.
will be good if you have it like this.
Right on. All right. So I have another question for you about this.
Yeah.
And just kind of changing subjects.
All right.
Who is Venatech? Who is Venatech? What is, you know, we're trying to figure it out with Chris and I. We're trying to figure out who Venatech is because we know Abyzz, but we don't know who Venatech is.
Okay. Well, so the whole background behind it. I used to work in a company that used to do industrial and automotive motion control parts. Huge corporation, 80 subsidiaries around the world, 3,000 plus employees. So it's been a huge company, and they've been doing all sorts of commutation systems. You know, those coals that you find in electric motors and all that stuff. So that's what I used to do. And my co-founder Jochen and longtime friend, I employed him 18 years ago in that company as well, or maybe even longer ago, I don't remember, to assist me in that electronic development, because we created a new branch in that company when all the electric motors started to come up, like electronically commutated motors, not communicated, commutated. So yeah, we created that, and well, started up this whole new branch and did several projects, from, you know, like hydraulic control, cooling fans for cars, water pumps for cars. So that was like a huge field. A lot of power tools, white goods, washing machines, all that stuff. So that's where our background is. So we used to do industrial motion control, and then at some point I got into that marine aquarium hobby.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, in the forums there were discussions about, you know, I mean, I was discussing with them, like, why don't stuff last? Like, what's the problem in investing, you know, $10 more into the material to make it last longer, and to you know, to not have to buy everything new? So within the discussion, I met our first customer, and he asked me, well, you seem to have a clue of motors. I'm just getting some ice. I'll explain later. So he told me, like, yeah, you seem to have a clue. Can you build a motor for me? And that's basically how I came into that. So, ice water. And then we started with a project of building an aquarium pump. And so that's what we did. And that continued, and we showed the first pump of that kind at the Interzoo in Nuremberg in 2004, 2006. I think it was 2004. We showed the first prototype, and yeah, so that was absolutely new. Like, nobody had a pump with that power. That was the A400 by then. That would be, you know, controllable in that way, to be able to create wave motions and all that stuff. So yeah, big game changer, but bad marketing, I must say. So and then what happened was, unfortunately, our customer basically ran away and had our technology copied in the Far East, and so we were left with all the tooling costs and everything. So that was the point when Jochen and I decided, like, oh, we can do that as well. So we did the remaining parts that we needed to do, and started building pumps. And luckily, I must say now, the holding company wasn't so happy with the whole company that we're working in, and they were trying to shut it down. So that's when we basically left and started up our own business, and that was in 2009. And that's when we funded Venotech as a industrial development and manufacturing company for electronics. So yeah, and we did like 50% of the turnover was industrial projects, and 50% were the pumps that started selling pretty good at that moment in Germany. And I never thought actually that, you know, I had no idea of whether we could sell that worldwide now. So in our tiny company with only 2 rooms, we started building those pumps and all the other electronics. So yeah, that worked great. And now Venotech is still doing industrial projects and aquaculture projects and motion control electronics and hydraulic controls. But with the success of the Abyzz brand, we have now reached a point where we are doing roughly 75 to 80% of the turnover with the pumps. So we still do industrial projects, but only where it really makes sense, where it fits our competence in the team. And other than that, we're mostly focusing on developing our own stuff now.
All right, so you're getting ready here to do stuff. Let's. What are you going to do now?
So now we have cooking water on the one side, boiling water, and we have iced water on the other side. So this has to be a little bit quick, so I have to focus on my work now. This is a special 𝘛𝘩𝘦 sieve, hole size roughly 5 millimeters. Mm-hmm. So we're going to put the dough in there. Roughly a cup or 1.5 cups per time.
All right.
Depending on how big your pot is and whether you're going to do that with 6 people or 2 people at work. And now we just push that through into that cooking water, the boiling water.
Okay.
Until it's empty.
So you're actually making like little noodles.
Right. It is a sort of pasta. Now we have to take this out again. Otherwise, this will heat up, and then you'll have all the dough already baking on that sieve. So
okay.
I don't know whether you can see, but
no, we can see it. So they're starting to float.
They're starting to float, and when they float, they're ready. And then you take them out and put them in the ice cold water.
Chris, how come he doesn't do that when we are you know, at the hotels, at the shows or anything like that? You know, it's like
he just wants to have cheap American food and a boat.
Come
on, guys, you know I love eating with you in the States.
yeah. So Chris and I have a running joke going around about Abyzz and Alex over at the shows and bartender.
Right.
Just our last name is Grah, especially when a brown guy like me goes and says, yeah, my last name is Grah, and they look twice. It's like, really? Yeah, no, it is Grah.
So while one part of the 𝘛𝘩𝘦 is cooling down in the ice water, we just prepare the next one.
Fantastic.
So what's really cool about this side dish is that you can prepare that actually a day before you get visitors. So I could have done that, but then you wouldn't have seen how easy that actually is to get that prepared. So because we cool it down, and then you can let it dry in the sieve, and then you just place it in the fridge. And then the next day you heat it up with a lot of butter, which we'll see later on. So while these start to float, I take the iced ones out, put them in a second sieve, and just place it above the sink.
Making some type of, it's kind of like it's like a pasta. It's a pasta. Okay.
It is pasta.
Yeah.
Egg pasta, egg noodles.
So I wanted to ask you about Abyzz and their pumps, and the fact that you guys, you're very proud to be German parts. You try to locally source raw materials or parts, whatever you can possibly source locally. You are going to try to do that first and foremost.
Yes. Absolutely, and that has to do. At first, it was just the naive idea of. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So at first, it was only the naive thought of, we can do this. We can do everything in Germany, and of course, I had to learn in the past that this doesn't really work. Like you can't win alone, and you can't separate the planet and the connectivity of the planet anymore. So there's always something that you can source locally, but we're trying our best, and most critical parts are actually coming from Germany. I mean, it's maybe 2 or 3 parts that don't come from Germany because of the raw materials. One thing, of course, is are the electronic components, capacitors and all that stuff. You just don't get that in Germany. So all our manufacturers have left us in the past. So there's no chance of getting that. But we're actually having our PCBs produced and the electronics being produced and built in Germany, pretty close to, have to focus on the food a little bit sometimes.
That's okay.
So we have them built half an hour from where our company is. We have 2 suppliers actually that are doing the electronic manufacturing services for us. As with our numbers, it wouldn't make any sense to have your own electronics branch. I mean, we're doing the assembly of the stuff all ourselves, but the actual boards we just order to our specification. And in case something goes wrong, it just takes me half an hour to go there and actually, clarify any problem. And that's what I really love about it. And then, of course, I mean, we have the bearings, for example, which are made from silicon carbide. There is no silicon carbide anywhere in Germany, not in a source that would be able to deliver the amount that Germany needs. So that raw material is obviously coming from China and then being milled or worked to our specification in Germany again. So and then we have titanium as raw material, which is usually coming from Germany. Sometimes we have to buy from elsewhere because the German suppliers not always can supply in time. So now this is all done. So we have those, and we'll let them sit there for a second. The iced water can go away. So now the kitchen will start looking ugly. So, yeah.
So hey, Alex, can you tell us the difference between the standard driver and the IPU series?
Oh yeah.
That's what I think a lot of customers are now seeing the new model, and I think clarifying that right now would be a good point to
yeah. So the whole thing about the IPU is that before we had the IPU, we had the IPX model that was almost not sold in the States. So that's why we possibly have some confusion there. We had the demand for a splash-proof, waterproof, weatherproof driver housing a couple of years ago from a research facility. And so we came up with that IPU case, which was basically a plastic housing with the heat sink in the back. And that was the weatherproof IP65 rated driver. Very expensive to build up because of it wasn't a standard case, and for those small numbers we couldn't make a like a customer specific mold for all that stuff. That would have been just too expensive. So we ended up taking a standard wiring box that looked okay, but it never met my feeling of how a product was supposed to look. So yeah, that's when we had these IPX drivers, and like a year ago, we decided that we want to give the product a new, fresh look. We wanted to change some of the technology and the connectivity of the product, which the IPX didn't have any connectivity at all. That was just waterproof, and there were no connections whatsoever. And on the standard drivers, the IP30 rated drivers that we still produce, we have only our proprietary bus system on it, and that doesn't connect super well. I mean, we have all those adapters, so you can connect to your Apex, you can connect to your GHL, any other third-party controller or SPC, but it was never in the way that was out of the box and didn't look like our product. So we needed to add on. When we designed the pumps, there was no bus system for aquarium pumps. There was no controllability from all the aquarium controllers, so that came very late. And with this control system that we had at that time, where you could control up to 8 pumps, and we're still producing that, by the way, as well, which is sort of not, I mean, it's really, really old school, the whole thing, but it runs. Like, you program that once and it will just continue to run for decades without having a problem or need of a software update. So that's some of the thoughts that went into how we're gonna design the new driver. And then, of course, we wanted to have a proprietary housing, like our own style, and that's the IPX now. So we created a tool for actually pressing the aluminum to our specification, and that's a very, very tough one because we need some heat sink, and we wanted to build that very rugged and basically bulletproof. Yeah, so that's the IPX, and now we have the interfacing modified. So we now have an interface slot, an auxiliary slot that we can use to basically put anything in. And with the next software that's coming out for the drivers, the modules for that auxiliary slot have the capability of taking over the whole driver software. So there's no need in the future then for any further software upgrades, because the auxiliary module will carry its own driver software. So you just plug it in, and then it will take control. If you allow that, it will take control of the driver, and then all the new features that you are desiring by the purchase of the module are already in the driver. So there's no problem with that.
So that's so Jeremy is showing right now. Our director is showing the old adapter that you needed, which now on the new controllers is actually incorporated into it already.
Yes, right. Well, not the adapter. To grab something here. So okay. Not the adapter is integrated. There's just the auxiliary port.
The auxiliary port. Okay.
We got rid of a D-sub 9-pole connector that we used to have on that we still have on the old drivers, on the IP30 standard drivers. And now the new one has this auxiliary port where we're not bound to that specific connector anymore. So if, let's say, any aquarium computer manufacturer would desire us to have an RJ45 cable, we can build an interface with that RJ45 slot directly in it, and you purchase the interface, plug it in, and then there's your connection. So we can actually switch in between the connectivity. So
okay, so what are we doing now?
We have Brussels sprouts.
Okay.
Brussels sprouts.
And you know, this recipe actually works great because right now with social distancing and the fact that we have to stay at home, a lot of us have, don't have access to fresh vegetables, or we don't want to go out and get fresh vegetables. So using frozen vegetables, and I'm assuming you have Brussels sprouts, but I can replace it with asparagus or peas or something else.
I mean, in the whole recipe now, there's the focus is on that meat that we're doing in a minute. So the sides basically vary. So I just chose sides that are German because, we wanted to cook in Germany. So why not do something German? And Brussels sprouts are very, very German type of veggies.
And I think he
And,
That
was
and a
she
German
likes something.
and a German dog to boot.
No.
Gonna do a little dance.
And that's what happens when you do live television, right?
Of course. That's just how it is. Nine.
All right. So I think one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is, and I get a lot of questions from it, me doing customer support, and even Chris handles the Abyzz part of the support, is head pressure, you know, in terms of your pumps. And we are shocked. It's amazing how your pumps can handle the head pressure that other pumps that may look like them cannot. The head pressure that your pumps can handle is almost like the same head pressure than one of those gear pumps out there can actually do, and not a magnetic pump like the one that we have. So can you talk about head pressure? Yeah,
well, back in the days when we designed the A400, which was the first pump that we actually designed. There's other dogs outside, so sorry about that. On the market, there were a lot of pumps from many different manufacturers, but a lot of the time, the manufacturers just chose like motors from other projects or other industrial branches, just to I need some butter right now, just to show, just to produce their own product. So they took, let's say, a rotor and a motor. Banu, Ruhe jetzt. So they chose any rotor and any motor housing to somehow build an aquarium pump out of that. So very often you had a mismatch of the head pressure curve that so it was just not fitted to the purpose that we wanted to have. So well, that was obviously something in the early design phase already that we wanted to have different. So we know a lot of manufacturers and pump models that actually claim to deliver a lot more water, especially at zero head, and there's some out there that actually do that. But you know, measuring at zero head is like you have a pump this size pumping into like an open aquarium in those pipe diameters without any friction or any loss. And we don't have that. Like when you build an aquarium, you have at least, let's say, 6 feet of plumbing under the aquarium. Mostly it's done too small. So you have resistance, you have that head pressure, the static head pressure that you have from the lower water level to the upper water level. So another 6 feet. So you're ending up at least 12 feet of head pressure just by the friction losses and the actual physical delivery height. So if you now take a pump that is very, very good at zero head pressure and you raise the head pressure just a little bit, that pump will just go down because the efficiency curve has a specific maximum, which is placed somewhere. And you can actually place that. Like when you design a pump from scratch, you can say, okay, I want the pump to be best at 4 meters, 16 feet of head pressure. That's where it's supposed to have its highest efficiency. So if you actually use that at zero head pressure, it's not as efficient as maybe another pump could be. But as soon as you add plumbing, that's when the change starts, because the other pump might just go down to 50% of the delivery rate at 12 feet, while our pump has its efficiency maximum at around 12 to 16 feet. So this is why we can deal with head pressure a lot better. So all that standard head pressure and plumbing is already considered while designing the pump. So we don't need to worry about that. So with the numbers that we're showing, some people go like, nah, I know a pump that does like 25-30% more flow at zero head. And I go, yeah, just try it in your system, and then you'll see the difference, because the other pump will just go down because the efficiency maximum is at zero head, and our pump is still on the efficiency curve when you when you go onto that head pressure. So back to the recipe. We have the Brussels sprouts in there. That thing will tell us when they're actually ready. Meanwhile, I'll start preparing the meat. So
fantastic.
Hey, Alex,
yes.
Since you were talking about head pressure, can you tell us about the Abyzz Tower? I think a lot of hobbyists have seen the Abyzz Tower when they at trade shows or the videos that we put out. How did you come up with the concept for the tower? And can you just explain to us, what it shows?
I will. Just one thing I actually forgot while preparing the dough, so I'm going to do that now. Super important. It's nutmeg.
Nutmeg.
Right? So I'll just put it on the finished ones before heating them. You should actually, with that amount of spätzle, you should rub a quarter to a third nutmeg, depending on your taste, into that dough. But it'll be okay. We'll just put, a load of ketchup on it and then. Not. So, the tower. Don't mind me while I'm cleaning my cutting board in the meanwhile. I'll be right back with you. So the tower is one of the earliest demonstrations, ideas for demonstration that we have. We wanted to show obviously the pump power, and we also wanted to show that it's very, very silent. So I've seen during some random interview before, smaller displays where people put up a little tube or where they have plumbing going up, like 4 feet high, and then there's a little bit of water coming out on the top. And I always said, like, that's not impressive. That doesn't make people think, because people will just pass by and say, my shower does that. So it's nothing special. Like, you see a little bit of water pouring out. Every fountain in every garden pond can do that. So I said, well, people are standing at the, in Vegas, and they're looking at the fountains, and they're like blown away, because it's just so incredibly powerful. So that's really fantastic. And that was obviously led to that idea, like to build something that is so powerful that we can actually blow up, like, above the roof of our fabrication warehouse. That was the plan in the first place. So I built a jet. I was playing around with an aquarium, and that was actually due to really testing the delivery rate. Like, you can do that in the test bench, but then the test bench always affects the measurement as well. So the simplest way to do is just to take a tank, have the shortest, biggest piping that you can imagine, and let it just blow out. And then it will just empty the tank, and then you can calculate the time. And, So while I was playing around and making everything wet, I thought, like, oh, how high can that thing blow up? So I just built a little jet, and then I had this jet mounted, and it was just on the roof easily. I'm like, okay, that's impressive. Now I got to talk to Florian Schuran, which at the time, he was my guy, or still is my guy for acrylics. So I went to Schuran and said, well, can you build a tower that actually has the pump sucking in from the bottom and blow it up, and then it will all be filled with water when it rains down. And so we had that tower built, took it to the first shows in Germany, and actually, there's a bunch of pictures on internally in our company that we can't put in the public because there's lots of children on it. But you would put up that tower, and the show would start, and then families would walk in, and then you see like kids just staring for hours. They would just stand there and just watch the water go up and down, and then we had the lights, and it was a fantastic display. So everybody stopped, because the normal trade booth height is like, I don't know, what is it, like 6 feet, 8 feet, maybe 10 feet. 8 feet. So, and then you walk into that show, and then you see this tower sticking up, like far in the back, and the water shooting up that way. So yeah, I think that was an awesome eye catcher. And then when we took that to the States on my first visit to I think that was Magna in Denver, we put up the tower, and everybody's like looking at us like, yeah, these guys are crazy. What are they going to show? And put this tiny pump on it. And I mean, we had customers in the States before, but to me that was like this going to the States for the first time with the product actually exhibiting was like the milestone, just to get into that market and to show those differences. And so we went there and had the tiny little pump. And I mean, we're comparing our delivery rate to pumps that are like easily this size. I mean, Chris has seen that at the public installations that we've been doing, where pumps are exchanged easily twice or three times the size of our A400, and the A400 is doing exactly the same job, just more silent. So we put the pump on that thing, and before we fire it up, people walk by and say like, "Oh, what's this?" And and then they suddenly see that water jetting up, but they don't hear anything. Like even before the show started, when it's still silent, people would walk in like, yeah, "What's this? What are you showing?" And I said, "Yeah, the aquarium pump." "So which pump is driving it?" I said, "It's right there." "No." I said, "Yeah, touch it. It's that pump." And they were like, "No, can't be." And when the show started, that was amazing. Like we had all the people around us basically at least once at the show. So when they walked in and they saw that water splashing up in the tube, fantastic display. So we actually shipped that display back to Germany after the show and built a larger one that now CoralVue has, and that has been in operation for the last almost 5 years now.
Yeah, easy. At least 5.
Yeah, so that's been that's done some good traveling now, and I think we're coming up with something new to show the A1200 as a display. So we're working on that right now due to this unforeseen Corona break that we're all taking a little bit. So we're preparing something to show something maybe not as high, but much more impressive than the tower that we have right now.
So we have a viewer question, and it's going back a little bit to a subject that we touched upon. It's his name is one of our viewers is Bruce, and Bruce is asking us, or is asking you, is there a minimum head flow recommendation for the Abyzz pumps? Can you explain why it is important not to go below that? Well, I guess the first question pretty much answers the second one. So Bruce, there isn't a minimum flow.
No, there is not a minimum flow. Although there's considerations that you might want to take. So it depends, of course, on how much detritus, sand, whatever crap that's in the water is going through the pump. So if the water is super clean, there's no restriction. If you have sand in the water, you might want to have enough water flow for the sand not to get stuck in the pump head, or start lying around and piling up behind the bearings or whatever. So that's the more water the pump actually moves, the higher the inner cooling loop runs. So if you have the pump running, let's say at 5% or at 1%, there's barely any water movement. And so is the water movement inside the pump, because there's obviously no mechanical heat generated in the bearings. But if you have the pump running at 400 watts, you have that mechanical friction in the bearings, even though they are hydraulic bearings, but still there's friction. And that warmed up water needs to go out. Otherwise, the pump will start ending up as a calcium brick at some point. Okay. So these are the considerations. We just recently had a case that might be an interesting explanation for a minute, if we have that time. We had one customer using, or we have some customers actually doing that, but we have a customer that recently came to us with a broken pump, and the back bearing was melted into that plastic motor housing. And he's using the pump upside down in a ceramic hideout that you could place in the tank, and you have the pump sucking in from the bottom through a grid. It's all, you know, perfectly installed. But if the pump is running too slow, and if there's air bubbles in the water, micro bubbles, they will collect in the back of the pump, in the rear, even though the pump is completely pushed down. It's like if you place a glass, you know, in the water.
Eventually, there's a bubble, and that it's not water there, so then it keeps heating up.
Exactly.
Wow.
So it's drying. The pump was actually drying out, and then not running fast enough. So the pressure on that anti-calcification bypass line would be high enough to push the air out. So now we're changing the manuals to explain that to people, so they know that this, I mean,
could happen.
It was a warranty claim. To me, it was misuse, but I assume you can you can't charge the customer for that. Eventually, I learned that because I had a bad discussion with him, like, you know, because people install industrial grade product without having the background on how pumps need to be installed, maybe. But I can't blame that. If I sell a pump to a customer, then I just, you know, I'm left with the customer to know how he's going to install it. And everybody in the aquarium business, I mean, except for maybe some super fancy installations, are done by the aquarist himself or by the hobbyist himself. So if they don't know how to install that, we have to train them and we have to explain that. And that's what we're doing in the manual. So that's why the manuals are being redone right now. And in the near future, we won't have any manuals in the boxes anymore as well. So that's a news that we're changing. So with the change of our packaging as well, we're getting rid of all the manuals because we have different manuals for all the different pump types in different languages, which costs a lot of money. There's a lot of work to update those manuals. And I would say 95% of all the customers, the manual goes in the bin with the box. So there's just no use in doing that. So what we're doing is we're going to have that on the website as downloads. We're going to start producing some more videos on how to install the pumps, on how to, you know, set up the pumps and all that stuff, just to get these paper bins empty. So that's that was one big change I wanted to do. So
I have another customer question.
Yeah, give me a second. So this thing says 16 minutes. So we have to do the meat now. So while you're doing that, I'll take this this loin. This is a little deer's loin. So it's super, super, super lean. I wrote that in the recipe in the explanation. So it's got only 7% total fat. On a beef fillet, you have 14. So since I'm the only one, well, my little daughter as well, so we're gonna do 4 little pieces here from this loin. You see the inside of the loin is just super, super tasty meat. I don't hear you, but I hope you like it.
Looks awesome.
That looks amazing. Oh my God, that looks really good. So I got another question from a customer, a viewer. His name is Glenn, and he says, what is the oldest pump that you've been running constantly? How long has that, it says, what is the longest a pump has ever run in your lab?
Well, in my lab, it was actually not so long because I figured it might be easier to have other people, to waste other people's energy for that.
let's open it up to, you know, the longest you've known a pump run.
Well, the oldest pump that I personally know of that is still in my surrounding is the one in my parents' pond. So that's an A400 10 meter, 30-foot cable, and that's running the pond. And the cable is, you know, it dug up in the ground, and then it goes across the terrace where the sun is shining. I mean, it's not as, you know, no California sun, but it's sun shining on it for well more than 14 years now. And the driver is on the outside. It's protected from rain, but it's still on the outside, and it's never been moved so far. So that's the oldest pump in a freshwater appliance. The oldest pump I had in service from a customer actually was built in 2007, and that was, I think, last year. And that, the customer gave me a call and said like, oh, my pump broke. What can I do about it? And I said, well, give me the serial number of that pump. And he gave me the serial number. Our service, actually, Sasha has been handling that. So he goes, oh, that pump's from 2007. So what's wrong with it? Yeah, it makes a noise and the rotor doesn't seem to run smoothly anymore. And I said, why don't you just send it in? Because the customer actually inquired about a new pump because it has been running great for so long. And I said, well, there's just no need to get a new pump. I mean, you can have another one if you want to, but I can also repair it. And he was like, you can repair that? But it's like from 2007. And I said, yeah, of course. We haven't changed anything on the pump. I mean, the driver has changed, obviously. We now have the driver with the display and stuff. And that was still the old one, the so-called 420 model, with that little turning knob in the front. But the motor is exactly the same. So the only thing that needed to be exchanged was all the O-rings. The bearings had been worn out completely, and the shaft was melted down basically from 10 millimeters to 8.2 or something. So almost 20% in diameter, what the shaft of the pump lost. And it was still running. I mean, it was just running noisy as hell, and it would have been damaged if you would have run that for longer. So, we had I don't know, maybe end customer pricing less than 200 euros. He had the full repair, including check, and the pump is running fine. So that was, I mean, I understand that it's a bad business model from some point of views, but that's just the way I want it to be, So.
Hey, Alex, let's, you and I do a lot of trade shows, and not all of them are for the hobby. A couple of them also, and the Raw conference are public aquarium shows for zoos and different types of business there. Tell me about you've had a lot of interesting installs over in Europe, Russia, and a few other areas with some of the AFCs. Can you tell us about one of the most recent jobs you've had over there?
Well, the last one, or the biggest and most impressive one, was definitely one in Istanbul, in Turkey, at a sea life installation where we installed 17 of the AFC 400 model. And that was like, I mean, the tank is just huge. It's not very deep. So on the deepest area, it's roughly, what is it, like 9 feet? But it's just huge. Like if you've seen the pictures that I posted, it's like a football field. So it is huge, and the water movement hasn't been very, very good. So they, by the time they built it, there was not that much available that you could use for a tank that size. So with the AFCs, we've been able to create a movement of the tank. Like we created 4 artificial vortexes in the tank that actually lift up the detritus and transport that into filtration. The problem very often is, especially in public aquariums, of course, because they are just so big, is that you might have a superb filtration and you do everything you can to maintain your water quality, but then all the can I say that shit from the fish is actually just trickling down in the tank, and then staying there, in the decoration, behind the wall, behind the reef, anywhere. And then it's degrading biologically, and you can have the best filtration that you can, but if all the detritus and all the leftovers are not going there, you can have the best filtration in the world and it will be useless. So now we created these vortexes to have a dedicated water movement in the tank that actually transports the water from the inlets all the way across walls, I must say. So there's walls that underwater rise up to 3 or 4 feet that we had to cross. So we used pumps that actually, that's me installing them in Istanbul, or helping installing them. Hi to my friends in Istanbul as well. Hope you're all safe. So yeah, so that's been an amazing project, and it turns out that they were able to reduce the power consumption significantly on that project. So two 30 kilowatt pumps were switched off while just installing, I think, 14 kilowatts new. So that's a huge saving. Plus, no more noise of those large pumps in there, and yeah, that much better spread of the whole water movement. So yeah, that was like the best project recently, I must say. So for the food, I just oh, that's 𝘏𝘗𝘬𝘐, by the way. I just saw the picture of 𝘏𝘗𝘬𝘐. So they also have some AFCs from us.
So for the food, what did you do there? I noticed that you were wrapping the venison on some ham, cured ham.
Yeah, that's so I went for what I could get. That was cured Parma ham.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives a little, you know, the typical Parma taste. So you can also use Serrano ham, will be nice. It's just because the meat is so lean. If you don't put anything around it, there's a high possibility for it to dry out. Okay. And then also, if you have to add too much salt to it, it will just lose all its moisture. So
what are you doing now?
So now around that cured ham, we're putting around smoked bacon.
Oh God, so, bacon!
So I think
cured ham, bacon. You know,
in every American household that I've been to, you always have bacon in the fridge. So that's a good way to add some salt on the and make sure that you have a nice crust on the outer layer of that. So
okay,
and also it protects also very important. It protects the center of the meat from overheating.
Yes.
So we're just gonna burn it from the top and the bottom, and then on the center will be perfectly, I hope.
So now I remember, you know, a couple of years ago, I used to watch the TV show called Tanked, and I remember one episode they were testing your pump because they needed an application that would actually move the pump.
Yeah, it was some install for a I don't even remember. It's some famous musician that got his aquarium from Tanked from ATM, and so they needed to overcome that head pressure from the basement. And I mean, of course, you can do that with, you know, some of the bigger aquarium pumps, but not silent. And so they went and tested some of the pumps on the market, and obviously chose ours because the others failed delivering the water that high.
Okay, so what are you doing now on do I see, is that rosemary sprigs?
That's fresh rosemary, which I luckily have growing in the garden.
Okay.
So I just chopped some little branches. They have to be hard enough to be pushed through the meat. So they give the meat the whole spice. So I don't put anything else on this except for salt, depending on how much you like it, and pepper, some black pepper, fresh ground. So I don't prepare any spicing before cooking this. So that's it basically.
Okay. One of the things, and I see that Chris probably had to go and get a refill already for his beer. But I want to ask you about, you know, owning a pump company. And you have at the office, you guys have a reef tank. I know you have a marine tank and everything. What are your experiences with the reef tank? I mean, you know, anything that you can share with our viewers about what you've learned, mistakes that you've made, especially related to the pump. You know,
Well,
what
I mean,
what can you share with us? Look, there's a picture of you gluing stuff.
yeah, that's when I put together the new installation. So of course I've made mistakes like everybody did. And anyone who says he never made a mistake, then, you know, I mean, I don't take that for real at all. So of course I did mistakes, and that when I started with the reef tank hobby, the first mistake was that I wanted to have everything fast. So biggest mistake ever, you need patience. If you don't have patience, don't start that hobby. Next thing, I bought everything cheap, you know, because I didn't want to spend that much money. I wanted to have a nice reef tank, but I didn't want to spend the money. If you don't want to spend the money, or if you don't have the money to spend, don't spend it at all. Then just rather not have a reef tank. I mean, that's a clear advice. If you run out of money already building the reef tank, you'll never be able to afford the animals that you want to have. So, and to keep them alive and thriving, because, you know, you might, if you have expensive fish, you might want to use expensive or like higher quality food. If you use like the cheapest stuff, you won't be happy with that tank or that fish on the long run. So I think that's a very, very important consideration. So I found out that when starting, you know, my calculation went from, oh yeah, we can do that for $500 up to, well, 2,000 isn't really enough. And that was, you know, that was 100, no, what was it? Maybe 80 gallon tank. Yeah. So, but then you want to have the nice light, and then you want to have the nice animals, and then you want to add some corals. And every Saturday we went out with our little reefing club here to visit all the local fish stores, of which not that many are left now. Luckily, we still have the best one, or two of the best ones actually in our area. So that's pretty good. Yeah, so that's where we spend all our money, right? And I've personally bought, I don't know, 5 skimmers in the past. Easily, and return pumps until I started building my own. So I think if you only spend the money once, it's much better. So my advice from my experience is build the reef tank as big as you want to have it, or as big as it possibly fits into your living room, and then just go for it and do the right calculation, do a realistic calculation on what you need. Get the advice from manufacturers and you know, all those wholesalers and installation companies at those shows. I mean, that's where you can suck up knowledge like crazy. Just ask the people. You know, no manufacturer will tell you something bad if or something that is not like true, because he will meet you at the next trade show, and then you're gonna say like, oh damn, what did you tell me, right? So I think that's a very important thing.
So what did you do here? What kind of cheese are you using in there?
So this is raclette cheese from 𝘏𝘠𝗪𝗏𝗏. So that's I think it's German, if I remember right. And this one it's very good for melting, for, you know, like putting on pizza or whatever. Yeah, so that's good.
All right. So what are you about to do now?
There's some truffle in there. So
ooh, wow, that's tasty.
Yeah.
So what are you?
What I'm gonna do? I'm heating up the pan. Some standard rapeseed oil. Yeah. Get the pan really hot, and then basically everything is done. Like, we need to stir these around and heat them up slowly. So I had the butter melted in that pan before I put the spatula in. Oof. So they're all covered now.
I cannot smell that, Chris, but I can imagine it smells pretty darn good right now.
I'm looking forward to dinner already.
Yeah, so
you're making me hungry, Alex.
Will it ship well for us next day to Chicago and New Jersey?
Well, you guys should have come to Interzoo, right?
Yeah, we're not allowed.
We had plans, but the pandemic kind of put a monkey wrench on things. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. Crazy.
Don't you dare eat that in front of me right now without trying it.
I have to try it.
All right. So any new products coming out with Abyzz? Any new products? Any new things that might be coming out soon that you can give us a little teaser or maybe give us a little preview?
Well, I don't have anything with me right now, but what
We
we're
can
coming
talk
out
about
with the next newest product will be the interfaces, basically the 0 to 10 and 420 milliamps and smart temp interfaces for the IPU drivers. So that's almost finished, I can say. So we'll be, I don't know, maybe 4 to 6 weeks ahead until we have that thing ready to be ordered and shipped. So that's the latest one. And we're doing some software upgrades on the IPU ones, basically minor features that won't affect the pump longevity or the power in any way. But yeah, and mostly right now we're working to get the AFC 1200 done. So the next bigger monster flow pump, because that's what the public aquarium demand. Where did I put the butter? Oh, there. So that's what the public aquarium branch demands.
Yeah,
So,
Alex, I think your hat's a 𝘛𝘩𝘦 hat. I believe 𝘛𝘩𝘦's looking forward to the AFC 1200.
Exactly. They're the ones that actually have already ordered some because they have a big research project where a lot of water needs to be moved up and down, actually, and that's where we're going to be using those AFC 1200s. So yeah.
So the AFC 1200 is about 3 times the size of the AFC 400, right?
Well, it's now from the dimensions, it's actually only twice the size, but it delivers a little bit more than 3 times as much water.
Nice.
So all is really hot.
So what are you doing right now? You got the butter melting on the cast iron or a non-stick pan?
Right. That's just this is what I'm looking for. So butter is heating up on this one. So that we need for the Brussels sprouts. So these are done. So that we're going to give them a little bit taste. We need a lot of butter to give it a lot of taste. So
wow, look at that.
I'll put this in.
So CoralVue, we've actually developed a the Hydros Wave engine, and we're working on a controller. And we wanted to get your thoughts on what do you think about pump manufacturers opening up their pumps so that they can be used on a third-party controller like the Hydros Control2 and Control4. What do you think are the benefits that come with a partnership such as that?
I think it's super important. As I mentioned earlier, like one of my favorite. Yeah, look at that. Losing my ears here.
Good thing you didn't fall in the frying pan, though.
Oh yeah, that would have been something. As I mentioned earlier, one of my favorite sayings is "You never win alone," and I rarely know a manufacturer that actually is doing a good job in doing everything on its own. Like if you're a good, we're a good pump manufacturer. I think we are, and we're good in pumps. I know we're not good in internet connectivity because A, we didn't want to do it. B, it's not our core competence. And C, we didn't think it was relevant. But now, obviously you have to do a little bit, at least what the customers look for. And if the customer wants that, then for sure we need to find a way of doing that. And your controller is one of those possibilities. So if we work together on those projects, we can incorporate all of this and just create a better customer experience overall. Because if we talk to each other, the customer will not be like, oh no, I have this brand, so I'm not going to buy from another brand. But if these two brands, these two companies actually talk to each other and work closely together, the customer will be happy buying 2 different brands because he knows that he's getting a product where he can rely on the functionality in between or the interconnectivity between those brands. So I think it's super important, and that's why we have that open protocol as well on even on our proprietary bus system that we had for the standard model. We do have a white paper on how to implement that into the controllers, but unfortunately, most manufacturers are, heading for a mass production market only.
Right.
And so they maybe they don't have or don't want to spend the power and the development costs that something like that brings with it on something where they know they're not going to be in the mass market. So
Okay.
I think, yeah, but that's
Okay.
where we can work. I mean, we're working on interconnectivity with Apex. I mean, we've done that before, and since Terrence, him and I, we have a very good connection, and we're trying to come up with new ideas and stuff. And he's been using our product for a long time, and I've been using their product for a long time. So obviously, I'm interested in connecting that to my system as well.
What are you doing on the other side? You got the butter going and the steaks. You're warming up some butter. Are you browning it, or is that for the? I think that's for the Brussels sprouts.
Right. I'm just browning the butter. Now dial it down a little bit, and now we just put it's still hot.
Okay, we have while you do that, we have another customer question here. It says, Robert, what size pump would you recommend for a 500-gallon tank and has enough pressure to run a manifold system with things like reactors and algae scrubbers attached to the manifold? So I'm guessing just a regular 500-gallon tank with the regular accessories. What do you think?
Well,
I'm assuming there's a lot of assumptions here that it's not going to another room, it's not going to another floor, it's actually 6 feet. There's a lot of variables in here that we're going to have to make assumptions on. But let's think about a basic setup with a 500-gallon tank and maybe a tank room in the back.
Well, an A200 would be enough to drive it, for sure. And it would be enough to drive a reactor.
Yes.
It would, though, not be the most efficient way to do all of this, because if you connect high and low pressure systems with each other, you're trying to aim for as much turnover as you can have with your tank. So let's say your head pressure is 6 feet to 10 feet. You don't want to raise that unnecessary. So you get the highest amount of flow if you want that exchange. So now you start adding your additional systems. So we're gonna, since these rolls are so big, I'm gonna give them a little
more there
from the side.
Okay.
As well.
So it's never. So you're saying it's not a good idea to have one pump do your return and the manifold. You should definitely do like 2 separate pumps to keep the low pressure and the low head. Otherwise, water follows the easiest way of
exactly. So if you want to connect something, make sure that you have any high pressure device running on a pump that is capable of doing high pressure and only has to do high pressure and little flow. Like media reactors, chillers can be like that. The pressurized sand filters are one of the, it makes no sense to have a pressurized sand filter in your return line or in a closed loop line where you want to have the most flow, and then you have to reach, 30 feet of head pressure just to get the water through the filter. That makes no sense.
Well, we do have another pressure, and another question is our friend Scott here, and I think you just answered that question. His answer is, his question is, I just purchased an Abyzz 200. This pump will pump water about 25 feet, give it or take, and he's beyond excited. So he's super excited about that. He does have a question. I've been doing a lot of reading, looking back at our chats at Mac Now Orlando. Do you, as a Biz, think that it is smart to rely on one pump for the entire system, or would you have multiple pumps? Can one pump be one and done? And I think you just answered that question. Well, it's a matter of preference, but at the same time, you should always have a backup.
Yeah, redundancy.
Redundancies. Right. You spent all this money on your tank, and you're relying on one pump. It's just not. Yes. I don't think it's the most efficient, or I don't want to say it's not the best way to do it.
Biz pumps are great. You should always get 2. as a salesman.
There's a reason for that. I mean, of course, the pump is expensive or valuable, as I like to say. But then, I mean, all your animals are too. And I think let's grab a standard 150-gallon reef tank, fully stocked, easily a 5-digit number of animals in there. Like, if you have grown your corals and all that stuff, so it's a very, very valuable system. So I wouldn't spend the least amount on everything running it. So I think that would be just wrong.
Okay.
And I understand that if people can't buy 2 pumps at one time, no problem. I mean, I get that. And you might have your old return pump standing around, or another spare or smaller pump that actually can keep your system alive for a little while.
But it's just
That's
a backup.
enough.
It's not. It doesn't have to be the same pump. It's supposed to only run for a few days while you get the pump repaired or whatever.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
okay.
that's I think absolutely okay to have a smaller pump or just a backup. Or if you have, if you have a local fish store, that you're friends with the owner and you're buying your food there, and he's happy to help you out every once in a while. Of course, just
So what did you just do there? Did you what did you add it to the Brussels sprouts? I think they look like breadcrumbs.
Breadcrumbs, right? It
Add
just gives a little bit
to it.
Crunchiness, and also I mean, you could do some
A little texture.
Yeah. You can add some mandeln, these little nuts, almonds. So you could add some chopped almonds as well, but nuts just don't fit to this. So that's why I'm just not doing that right now. So
if anybody, I just want to say before anything, I see a lot of our customers and viewers are posting questions in there. So please, we only have limited time, and Alex can only answer so many questions. So if you have a question about it, please just feel free to submit a ticket. You can email support@coralvue.com directly, or you can go to our support portal, which is support.coralvue.com. And any questions that Alex didn't get to answer here because of the limited time, please feel free to ask them, and then we'll take care of them. If we don't know the answer, we have a direct line to Alex, and we'll ask him, and then we'll help you out. So please, if your question wasn't answered and it's about a pump product, please feel free to send an email to support. So it looks like we're getting ready to plate.
Yeah, well,
I'm kind of getting hungry already. It's lunch here.
Ask me. I have had 1 apple today.
And I'm drinking on an empty stomach, which is not a good thing.
Drink all the time. That's the problem.
Yeah, I know, exactly. You know what? I'm gonna take your German card off. I'm gonna take your German card back. So that's fantastic.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pour now.
Oh, don't give me. What is that? What kind of wine is it? What are you doing?
I'm having a Montes Alpha from Chile.
Oh my God, you cannot go wrong with a Chilean wine.
Right, and this is
Ricardo's gonna be happy about that.
it's fantastic. It's one of my absolute all-time favorites. Shout out to my wine dealer, my local wine dealer. Very good shop. Good. So yeah, that's the thing that I like to have to that kind of meat.
Fantastic. We do have one more. I think we have time to cover one more question before we move on. Hey, we have one more question to go on, and it's Dennis. He says, what percentage of pumps end up being returned for repair? Do you have any numbers?
Well, we do have, I would say by now, I mean, our service department, luckily, can be run by one part-time staff. So, I mean, everybody knows, or everybody who has seen Sasha at the shows, Sasha is still doing the service department for us. 50% of the day, he's communicating, answering questions and all that stuff. So I would say that we have, how many returns do we have? I mean, he spent, just today, I saw the number in the control, and I think in the last 3 months, he spent 55 hours on service.
Wow, that's it.
And that's, I mean, only the stuff where he needs to repair a pump, to fix the pump. And that also includes all the pumps that are actually, being damaged by nothing that the warranty covers. Like, I mean, every once in a while we get someone's driver who has been, you know, taking a dunk in the sump or whatever, and then that's obviously not a warranty thing, but that's all included in that service time. So I think that's absolutely fair. Yeah.
Okay. Kelly, and Kelly, you know what? I cannot resist asking this question. I said it was going to be one last question, but Kelly has a question about your wine. Is it a sweet,
about the wine?
Dry, yeah, sweet, dry wine. It's a Merlot, Pinot. What is it?
It's a Cab, Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's absolutely not sweet. So it's super dry and pretty strong. So it's got 14.5%. So that's 29 proof.
Okay, you're gonna send me the link, and we're gonna post it along with the recipe, which brings me to the next. Which brings me to the next point. So there you go. Look at that. That's 2016. That's fantastic. Oh, I can't wait.
It's really fantastic wine.
Okay, so as we promised at the beginning of the show, we promised that we were going to be giving away an A200 pump. So now we get to say what you're going to be doing. So it's an A200 pump. So it's not gonna be like, you know, ask the best question or something. You're gonna have to earn this pump. And the way to earn it is you're gonna have to recreate Alex's recipe and then post pictures and tag Abyzz and tag CoralVue on it. And then next week, we will select the best picture of the recreation, and that's the person that will win the pump, okay? So you have until Monday, end of the day, Monday. Oh God, look at that. Look at that. Oh, brother.
And the smell is with the truffle.
I can't even smell it. Oh my God. So you have until Monday, end of the day, to cook it and send us a picture. And then from the pictures, we will select the winner of the A200 pump, sponsored by Abyzz and CoralVue. Look at that. That looks amazing. Oh my God. So what time, Chris, should we hop on that plane right now and charge it to CoralVue's?
I'll put it on Alex's tab.
yeah, at the airport. My ticket is under Grah.
Under Grah. I'll grow some sideburns.
Oh my God!
Inside, it's rare because I preferably eat that rare because I know I've shot this animal as I'm being a hunter, so this is the way that you can eat that. I mean, it's a vegetarian animal, so that's a herbivore, right? So you don't have the risk of getting any bad stuff that you can get like from what they call wild boars. So that can be dangerous. But this, since I know how I treated that, there's no gamey smell whatsoever. It's just the perfect taste to it.
But you can replace it with other types of meats as well.
Absolutely. Like I wrote that in the recipe, so you can easily you can cut a beef loin to do quarters to not get the roll too big because a beef obviously is like this size, the loin. You can use lamb, for example, that would work perfectly as well. Red deer, whitetail, anything you can get. I just try to promote venison as very often I talk to people like, oh no, I don't eat venison, it tastes so gamey and stuff, and usually that's based on a bad experience because they've had venison somewhere in some random restaurant or whatever, and they got the venison from, I don't know, New Zealand, freshly imported. It wasn't treated right. People don't, really don't give anything about the treatment of those animals or the meat. Some people really just shoot, and they just don't care about how the meat is treated. And I'm the one like eating all that stuff. Like everything we shoot, we eat. And that's, I think, good way to do it. So a little tip, little hint for if you've cooked and now your guests aren't there because my family's obviously just getting ready. If you place stuff in your oven, even this perfectly rare and on the outside brown piece of meat, if you place that at 80 degrees Celsius, I don't know the Fahrenheit right now from the top of my head, but 80 degrees Celsius in the oven, and you just have that on top and bottom heat, this won't change the meat. It will keep it warm, but the degree of cooking won't change. So if you do a steak and you have your steak perfectly rare, you can place it in there 80 degrees Celsius and it won't change.
That's 175 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay. All right.
So we have one last request before we call it a day, and we go and sit down and eat. And it's from David, who's the owner and president of and CEO of CoralVue. Is Alex, can you have us at your house for the next show in Germany and cook for us?
No problem. Absolutely. For you guys, I always do that.
Well, we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to have you here.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for letting us into your kitchen. This was fantastic. It was a lot of fun. I think I enjoyed it more than just chatting with you about the fish tank. It feels like I'm just across the island with Chris. You're sitting on a bar stool on the other side, and we're sharing wine and having a good conversation.
That's what we usually do, right?
Yeah. I think we enjoy that a lot.
That's where the best deals get made.
Yeah. I know it's a bit sad. You know, I've been looking forward to this event because I mean, you guys know that we're always having a good time when we're together, and I'm always having a good time with customers at these shows. I mean, these shows are the biggest part of my business life. Like, I hate sitting in my office running numbers. That's like the absolutely worst that can happen to me. But I want to go out. I want to be there at the show. I want to, answer questions. So that's what I like, to communicate with people, and sitting around here and having all my flights Sanjayed at one time. It's really bothering me.
Of course, you had to sneak that one in, didn't you?
You know, I miss that. I literally miss that. I mean, of course I love staying home with my family, but especially this year, you know, we've made plans. We've booked everything. We wanted to be in. Right now, we would be in Sarasota.
Yeah.
You know, having vacation before Raw, and you know, looking forward to a great show, having fun and with the family, everything. And now it's like this crap going on, and it's like.
You know, we're trying to do the best of it, and even though we're far apart, the internet and Zoom and the other companies that
connects us.
Skype, it connects us. And I've noticed myself that please go ahead. I've noticed myself that now that I'm at home, I've actually connected with more people more often than I did before. If there is if there is something good that comes out of this. So I wanted to say thank you, everybody. Thank you for all our viewers. I know this went a little bit longer than we planned, but when you're cooking, you know, it happens. We had a great conversation with you, Alex. Chris, thank you for Zoom bombing our interview here. We had a great time. Again, everybody, CoralVue.com, Abyzz pumps. They're fantastic, 10-year warranty. You can't go wrong with them. Make sure you like our page. Look at that. You like CoralVue page. Like Abyzz page. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you hit the little bell that tells you notifications. The notifications and the subscriptions help our channel be, like I said before, they help the channel. They make the channel, because then we can justify to the boss that we're doing something good, instead of just cooking and drinking wine, which I think is fine with me. So thank you again. Thank you again for watching. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Until then, please stay safe.
Stay safe and healthy, guys. Thanks, Alex.
Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.